Day 92, Conquest and Judges, Judges 9 through 11, Ruth 4, Psalm 136. Let's begin. Judges 9 through 11. After Abimelech, a leader rose up in Israel, Tola, the son of Puah, the paternal uncle of Abimelech, a man of Issachar, who lived in Shamir on Mount Ephraim. And he judged Israel for 23 years, and he died and was buried at Shamir. After him succeeded Jair, a Gileadite, who judged Israel for 22 years. Having 30 sons sitting upon 30 young donkeys, and who were leaders of 30 cities, which from his name were called Havoth-Jair, that is, the towns of Jair, even to the present day, in the land of Gilead. And Jair died, and he was buried in the place which is called Canaan. But the sons of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, joining new sins to old, and they served idols, the Baals and Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria and Sidon, and of Moab and the sons of Ammon, and the Philistines. And they abandoned the Lord, and they did not worship him. And the Lord, becoming angry against them, delivered them into the hands of the Philistines and the sons of Ammon. And they were afflicted and vehemently oppressed for 18 years, all who were living beyond the Jordan in the land of the Amorite, which is in Gilead. To such a great extent that the sons of Ammon, crossing over the Jordan, laid waste to Judah and Benjamin and Ephraim. And Israel was exceedingly afflicted. And crying out to the Lord, they said, We have sinned against you. For we have forsaken the Lord our God, and we have served the Baals. And the Lord said to them, Did not the Egyptians, and the Amorites, and the sons of Ammon, and the Philistines, and also the Sidonians, and Amalek, and Canaan, oppress you, and so you cried out to me, and I rescued you from their hand? And yet you have forsaken me, and you have worshipped foreign gods. For this reason, I will not continue to free you any more. Go, and call upon the gods whom you have chosen. Let them free you in the time of anguish. And the sons of Israel said to the Lord, We have sinned. You may repay us in whatever way pleases you. Yet free us now. And saying these things, they cast out all the idols of the foreign gods from their regions, and they served the Lord God. And he was touched by their miseries. And then the sons of Ammon, shouting out together, pitched their tents in Gilead. And the sons of Israel gathered together against them, and they made camp at Mizpah. And the leaders of Gilead said to one another, Whoever among us will be the first to begin to contend against the sons of Ammon, he shall be the leader of the people of Gilead. At that time, there was a Gileadite, Jephthah, a very strong man and a fighter, the son of a kept woman, and he was born of Gilead. Now Gilead had a wife, from whom he received sons. And they, after growing up, cast out Jephthah, saying, You cannot inherit in the house of our father, because you were born of another mother. And so, fleeing and avoiding them, he lived in the land of Tob. And men who were indigent and robbers joined with him, and they followed him as their leader. In those days the sons of Ammon fought against Israel. And being steadfastly attacked, the elders of Gilead traveled so that they might obtain for their assistance Jephthah, from the land of Tob. And they said to him, Come and be our leader, and fight against the sons of Ammon. But he answered them, Are you not the ones who hated me, and who cast me out of my father's house? And yet now you come to me, compelled by necessity? And the leaders of Gilead said to Jephthah, But it is due to this necessity that we have approached you now, so that you may set out with us, and fight against the sons of Ammon, and be commander over all who live in Gilead. Jephthah also said to them, If you have come to me so that I may fight for you against the sons of Ammon, and if the Lord will deliver them into my hands, will I truly be your leader? They answered him, The Lord who hears these things is himself the mediator, and the witness that we shall do what we have promised. And so Jephthah went with the leaders of Gilead, and all the people made him their leader. And Jephthah spoke all his words, in the sight of the Lord, at Mizpah. And he sent messengers to the king of the sons of Ammon, who said on his behalf, What is there between you and me, that you would approach against me, so that you might lay waste to my land? And he responded to them, It is because Israel took my land, when he ascended from Egypt, from the parts of Arnon, as far as the Jabbok and the Jordan. Now therefore, restore these to me with peace. And Jephthah again commissioned them, and he ordered them to say to the king of Ammon. Jephthah says this: Israel did not take the land of Moab, nor the land of the sons of Ammon. But when they ascended together from Egypt, he walked through the desert as far as the Red Sea, and he went into Kadesh. And he sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Permit me to pass through your land. But he was not willing to agree to his petition. Likewise he sent to the king of Moab, who also refused to offer him passage. And so he delayed in Kadesh. And he circled around the side of the land of Edom and the land of Moab. And he arrived opposite the eastern region of the land of Moab. And he made camp across the Arnon. But he was not willing to enter the borders of Moab. Of course, Arnon is the border of the land of Moab. And so Israel sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who was living at Heshbon. And they said to him, Permit me to cross through your land as far as the river. But he too, despising the words of Israel, would not permit him to cross through his borders. Instead, gathering an innumerable multitude, he went out against him at Jahaz, and he resisted strongly. But the Lord delivered him, with his entire army, into the hands of Israel. And he struck him down, and he possessed all the land of the Amorite, the inhabitant of that region, with all its parts, from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok, and from the wilderness even to the Jordan. Therefore, it was the Lord, the God of Israel, who overthrew the Amorites, by means of his people Israel fighting against them. And now you wish to possess his land. Are not the things that your God Chemosh possesses owed to you by right? And so, what the Lord our God has obtained by victory falls to us as a possession. Or are you, perhaps, better than Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab? Or are you able to explain what his argument was against Israel, and why he fought against him? And though he has lived in Heshbon, and its villages, and in Aroer, and its villages, and in all the cities near the Jordan for 300 years, why have you, for such long a time, put forward nothing about this claim? Therefore, I am not sinning against you, but you are doing evil against me, by declaring an unjust war against me. May the Lord be the judge and the arbiter this day, between Israel and the sons of Ammon. But the king of the sons of Ammon was not willing to agree to the words of Jephthah that he commissioned by the messengers. Therefore, the Spirit of the Lord rested upon Jephthah, and circling around Gilead, and Manasseh, and also Mizpah of Gilead, and crossing from there to the sons of Ammon. He made a vow to the Lord, saying, If you will deliver the sons of Ammon into my hands, whoever will be the first to depart from the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the sons of Ammon, the same will I offer as a holocaust to the Lord. And Jephthah crossed to the sons of Ammon, so that he might fight against them. And the Lord delivered them into his hands. And he struck them down from Aroer, as far as the entrance to Minnith, 20 cities, and as far as Abel, which is covered with vineyards, in an exceedingly great slaughter. And the sons of Ammon were humbled by the sons of Israel. But when Jephthah returned to Mizpah, to his own house, his only daughter met him with timbrels and dances. For he had no other children. And upon seeing her, he tore his garments, and he said, Alas, my daughter! You have cheated me, and you yourself have been cheated. For I opened my mouth to the Lord, and I can do nothing else. And she answered him, My father, if you have opened your mouth to the Lord, do to me whatever you have promised, since victory has been granted to you, as well as vengeance against your enemies. And she said to her father, Grant to me this one thing, which I request. Permit me, that I may wander the hillsides for 2 months, and that I may mourn my virginity with my companions. And he answered her, Go. And he released her for 2 months. And when she had departed with her friends and companions, she wept over her virginity in the hillsides. And when the 2 months expired, she returned to her father, and he did to her just as he had vowed, though she knew no man. From this, the custom grew up in Israel, and the practice has been preserved. Such that, after each year passes, the daughters of Israel convene as one, and they lament the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite, for 4 days. Now Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem, to his maternal brothers, and he spoke to them, and to all the relatives of the house of his maternal grandfather, saying, Speak to all the men of Shechem, which is better for you, that 70 men, all the sons of Jerubbaal, should rule over you, or that one man should rule over you. And consider also that I am your bone and your flesh. And his maternal brothers spoke about him to all the men of Shechem, all these words, and they inclined their hearts after Abimelech, saying, He is our brother. And they gave to him the weight of 70 silver coins from the shrine of Baalberith. With this, he hired for himself indigent and wandering men, and they followed him. And he went to his father's house in Ophrah, and he killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men, upon one stone. And there remained only Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, and he was in hiding. Then all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the families of the city of Millo, and they went and appointed Abimelech as king, beside the oak that stood at Shechem. When this had been reported to Jotham, he went and stood at the top of Mount Gerizim. And lifting up his voice, he cried out and said, Listen to me, men of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. The trees went to anoint a king over themselves. And they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. And it responded, How could I abandon my fatness, which both gods and men make use of, and depart to be promoted among the trees? And the trees said to the fig tree, Come and accept royal power over us. And it responded to them, How could I abandon my sweetness, and my very sweet fruits, and depart to be promoted among the other trees? And the trees said to the vine, Come and reign over us. And it responded to them, How could I abandon my wine, which gives joy to God and men, and be promoted among the other trees? And all the trees said to the bramble, Come and reign over us. And it responded to them, If truly you would appoint me as king, come and rest under my shadow. But if you are not willing, let fire go forth from the bramble, and let it devour the cedars of Lebanon. So now, if you are upright and without sin in appointing Abimelech as a king over you, and if you have acted well with Jerubbaal, and with his house, and if you have repaid, in turn, the benefits of him who fought on your behalf, and who gave his life to dangers, so that he might rescue you from the hand of Midian. Though you now have risen up against my father's house, and have killed his sons, 70 men, upon one stone, and have appointed Abimelech, the son of his handmaid, as a king over the inhabitants of Shechem, since he is your brother. If therefore you are upright and have acted without fault with Jerubbaal and his house, then you should rejoice on this day in Abimelech, and he should rejoice in you. But if you have acted perversely, may fire go forth from him and consume the inhabitants of Shechem and the town of Millo. And may fire go forth from the men of Shechem and from the town of Millo, and devour Abimelech. And when he had said these things, he fled and went away to Beer. And he lived in that place, out of fear of Abimelech, his brother. And so Abimelech reigned over Israel for 3 years. And the Lord put a very grievous spirit between Abimelech and the inhabitants of Shechem, who began to detest him, and to place blame for the crime of the killing of the 70 sons of Jerubbaal, and for the shedding of their blood, upon Abimelech, their brother, and upon the rest of the leaders of the Shechemites, who assisted him. And they stationed an ambush against him at the summit of the mountains. And while they were waiting for his arrival, they committed robberies, taking spoils from those passing by. And this was reported to Abimelech. Now Gaal, the son of Ebed, went with his brothers, and crossed over to Shechem. And the inhabitants of Shechem, uplifted by his arrival, departed into the fields, laying waste to the vineyards, and trampling the grapes. And while singing and dancing, they entered into the shrine of their God. And while feasting and drinking, they cursed Abimelech. And Gaal, the son of Ebed, cried out, Who is Abimelech, and what is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, who has appointed Zebul, his servant, as ruler over the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem? Why then should we serve him? I wish that someone would set this people under my hand, so that I might take away Abimelech from their midst. And it was told to Abimelech, Gather the multitude of an army, and approach. For Zebul, the ruler of the city, upon hearing the words of Gaal, the son of Ebed, became very angry. And he sent messengers secretly to Abimelech, saying, Behold, Gaal, the son of Ebed, has arrived at Shechem with his brothers, and he has set the city against you. And so, rise up in the night, with the people who are with you, and lie hidden in the field. And at first light in the morning, as the sun is rising, rush upon the city. And when he goes out against you, with his people, do to him what you are able to do. And so Abimelech rose up, with all his army, by night, and he set ambushes near Shechem in 4 places. And Gaal, the son of Ebed, went out, and he stood at the entrance to the gate of the city. Then Abimelech rose up, and all the army with him, from the places of the ambushes. And when Gaal had seen the people, he said to Zebul, Behold, a multitude is descending from the mountains. And he responded to him, You are seeing the shadows of the mountains, as if they were the heads of men, and so you are being deceived by this error. Again, Gaal said, Behold, a people is descending from the middle of the land, and one company is arriving by the way that looks towards the oak. And Zebul said to him, Where is your mouth now, with which you said, Who is Abimelech that we should serve him? Is this not the people that you were despising? Go out and fight against him. Therefore, Gaal went out, with the people of Shechem watching, and he fought against Abimelech, who pursued him, fleeing, and drove him into the city. And many were cut down on his side, even to the gate of the city. And Abimelech made camp at Arumah. But Zebul expelled Gaal and his companions from the city, and he would not permit them to remain in it. Therefore, on the following day, the people departed into the field. And when this had been reported to Abimelech, he took his army, and divided it into 3 companies, and he placed ambushes in the fields. And seeing that the people had departed from the city, he rose up and rushed upon them, along with his own company, assaulting and besieging the city. But the 2 other companies pursued the enemies scattered in the field. Now Abimelech assaulted the city all that day. And he seized it, and he killed its inhabitants, and he destroyed it, so much so that he scattered salt in it. And when those living in the tower of Shechem had heard about this, they entered the temple of their god, Berith, where they had formed a covenant with him. And it was because of this that the place had taken its name. And it was greatly fortified. Abimelech, also hearing that the men of the tower of Shechem had joined together, ascended to Mount Zalmon, with all his people. And taking an axe, he cut down the branch of a tree. And laying it on his shoulder, and carrying it, he said to his companions, What you see me do, you must do quickly. And so, eagerly cutting down branches from the trees, they followed their leader. And surrounding the fortified place, they set it on fire. And so it happened that, by smoke and fire, 1,000 persons died, men and women together, the occupants of the tower of Shechem. Then Abimelech, setting out from there, arrived at the town of Thebez, which he surrounded and besieged with his army. Now there was, in the midst of the city, a high tower, to which men and women were fleeing together, with all the leaders of the city. And, having very strongly sealed the gate, they were standing on the roof of the tower to defend themselves. And Abimelech, drawing near the tower, fought valiantly. And approaching the gate, he strove to set it on fire. And behold, one woman, throwing a fragment of a millstone from above, struck the head of Abimelech, and broke his skull. And he quickly called to his armor-bearer, and said to him, Draw your sword and strike me, otherwise it may be said that I was slain by a woman. And doing as he was ordered, he killed him. And when he was dead, all those of Israel who were with him returned to their homes. And so did God repay the evil that Abimelech had done against his father by killing his 70 brothers. The Shechemites also were given retribution for what they had done, and the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal, fell upon them. Ruth 4. Then Boaz went up to the gate, and he sat there. And when he had seen the kinsman passing by, whom he had previously discussed, he spoke to him, calling him by his name, Pause for a little while, and sit down here. He turned aside and sat down. But Boaz, calling aside 10 men among the elders of the city, said to them, Sit down here. They settled down, and he spoke to the kinsman Naomi, who has returned from the region of the Moabites, is selling part of a field of our brother Elimelech. I wanted you to hear this, and to tell you in front of everyone sitting here, including the eldest of my people. If you will take possession of it by the right of kinship, buy it and possess it. But if it displeases you, you should reveal this to me, so that I will know what I have to do. For there is no near kinsman besides you, who is before me, and I am after you. But he answered, I will buy the field. And Boaz said to him, When buying the field, you are likewise obliged to accept the hand of the woman Ruth, the Moabite, who was the wife of the deceased, so that you may raise up the name of your near kinsman through his posterity. He answered, I yield my right of kinship, for I am obliged not to cut off the posterity of my own family. You may make use of my privilege, which I freely declare I will forego. Yet it was the custom between kinsmen in this former time in Israel, that if at any time one yielded his right to another, so as to confirm his permission, the man took off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. This was a testimony of concession in Israel. And so Boaz said to his kinsman, Take off your shoe. And immediately he released it from his foot. And he said to the eldest and to all the people, You are witnesses this day, that I have taken possession of all that belonged to Elimelech and Chilion and Mahlon, and was bequeathed to Naomi. And Ruth, the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon, I have taken in marriage so as to raise up the name of the deceased in his posterity, so that his name will not be cut off from among his family and his brethren and his people. You, I say, are witnesses of this thing. All the people who were at the gate, along with the eldest, answered, We are witnesses. May the Lord make this woman, who enters into your house, like Rachel and Leah, who built up the house of Israel, so that she may be an example of virtue in Ephrathah, and so that her name may be honored in Bethlehem. And may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, of the offspring which the Lord will give to you from this young woman. And so Boaz took Ruth, and received her as his wife, and he went into her, and the Lord granted to her to conceive and bear a son. And the woman said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, who has not permitted your family to be without a successor, and may his name be called upon in Israel. And now you may have someone to comfort your soul and to care for you in old age, for he is born of your daughter-in-law, who loves you, and this is much better for you than if you had 7 sons. And taking up the boy, Naomi placed him on her bosom, and she took on the duties of carrying him and nursing him. And the women of the near future were congratulating her and saying, There was a son born to Naomi. They called his name Obed. Here is the father of Jesse, the father of David. These are the generations of Perez. Perez conceived Hezron. Hezron conceived Aram. Aram conceived Amminadab. Amminadab conceived Nahshon. Nahshon conceived Salmon. Salmon conceived Boaz. Boaz conceived Obed. Obed conceived Jesse. Jesse conceived David. Psalm 136. A Psalm of David, to Jeremiah. Above the rivers of Babylon, there we sat and wept, while we remembered Zion. By the willow trees in their midst, we hung up our instruments. For, in that place, those who led us into captivity questioned us about the words of the songs. And those who carried us away said, Sing us a hymn from the songs of Zion. How can we sing a song of the Lord in a foreign land? If I ever forget you, Jerusalem, let my right hand be forgotten. May my tongue adhere to my jaws, if I do not remember you, if I do not set Jerusalem first, as the beginning of my joy. O Lord, call to mind the sons of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who say, despoil it, even to its foundation. O daughter of Babylon, have pity. Blessed is he who will repay you with your payment, which you have paid to us. Blessed is he who will take hold of your little ones and dash them against the rock.